Hey guys, this is Rich with Wolverine Airsoft, and we have a PTS PDR here. We have installed Wolverine Airsoft Hydra in it using our PDR kit, and we're going to take this apart. We're going to look at how we did the installation and everything that you need to do to turn your PDR into an HPA monster. Okay, so we've gotten the PDR all torn down here. We're going to take a look at what our kit includes. First of all, you're going to have your Hydra cylinder. It comes pre-installed with the PDR nozzle, a V2 wire harness, jumper board with a couple of leads, piece of heat shrink, a couple little pieces of heat shrink, selector switch here, a little screw to hold the selector switch on. How this is going to work, you're going to need to drill a hole for the airline. So if we just put the two pieces of the gearbox together, we just drilled a 3/8 hole right through there. So you're going to need to do that to make a path for the airline. And on the body of the gun, you will need to drill a 3/8 hole right here, right behind where the sling mounting point is. The other thing we're going to need to do in order to put this all together is we're going to need to use the included small drill bit, and we're going to need to drill a hole right about here. How this is going to work, and I'll show you how it goes together, and then we'll talk about how to do it. The small screw, it's a self-tapping screw. Just start it into the switch until it's just starting to poke out the far side. And then we're going to mount that switch right in here in the hole that we just drilled. It's just going to thread right into the hole we just drilled. And how this works is this is the selector switch. So we're going to use the switch that's already in the gun as our trigger switch. And we're going to maintain the two-stage trigger. What happens is when the trigger is fully pulled, which we can do by doing this arm gets pushed down. So you can see we put the hole approximately there, but we're going to turn, how we're going to do is we're just going to rotate the switch until it's engaged when the trigger is pulled all the way. So half pull, half pull, half pull, and then it engages when it pulls all the way. Okay, so that's really just where we want it there, and then we're just going to tighten it down a little bit. And then again, just double check that when it clicks, that should be when it starts to engage the switch. So our selector switch is positioned, and now we take our lead here. And what we're going to do is this board, this little jumper board, is going to sit right down in here where the motor used to be. So it's just going to sit right down in there. So this lead needs to come down, turn around. So I'm going to shorten this lead up just a little bit, about an inch, just to avoid extra being stuck in there. And I'm going to restrip the leads. Now we're going to go ahead and get our soldering iron, and we're going to tin the leads. Okay, we're going to take our two little pieces of heat shrink, and we're going to go ahead and slide them on. So now we're going to tin the leads on the switch. We're going to take our leads and we're just going to tack them on. Now what we're going to do is we're just going to slide the heat shrink up, protect the contacts, and we're going to hit that with the heat gun to shrink it. Okay, so we hit that with the heat gun to shrink the heat shrink, and now this is your second lead, and you can see what we've done is I've trimmed the one lead about an inch shorter than the other. How this is going to work, the switch sits right in there. The wiring is going to go through this hole, come up, and it's going to get tacked in there. And then the second lead goes through that little hole there and gets tacked in on the far side. So we're just going to go ahead and solder that in. We already have the leads stripped and cut to the proper length on this one. So you can see that's just going to sit right there where the motor was. Now, the next part is a little bit tricky, because what we have to do is we have to hook all this together when we have the wires connected to two different sides of the gearbox. So just kind of lay them down like this. Plug your selector line into your selector port on the board, and your trigger line into the trigger port on the board. At this point, take our wire harness, and it is going to go through the same hole that our trigger wire went through. And this wire here is going to go down to your jumper board. It's going to get packaged right in there. Alternatively, if you want to, and what I'll go ahead and show how to do this here, but in the past we've done it down here, and what we've done is we've taken the heat shrink and put it around it to just kind of hold all the wires together so they don't get pinched. Alternatively, if you want, you could just take the board and you could move my wires around a little bit. You could just kind of mount the board down here. I think I'll go ahead and show you how to do that, just as an alternative method here. And all I'm going to do for this, you could put another little screw in there. All I'm going to do is I'm just going to put a little bit of super glue on the back side of the board and tack it down to that side of the gearbox so it stays in place. And then the wiring can go where it needs to. Okay, so I got it tacked down there just with some super glue on the back. The cylinder's just going to sit right in like that. And at this point, it's really just a matter of carefully getting everything back together, making sure you don't pinch any wires. This wire is going to need to sit kind of right like that. Airline is going to need to bend around and sit right in there. All this wiring needs to just kind of sit right down in that location, and we got to be careful not to get it pinched on anything, because that will cause negative results. One thing is, when you try to put the gearbox together, it always catches on this little guy, so you got to just snap him together to let the front get together. Alright, so we got everything back together here. Got the gearbox back together. Again, just being careful not to pinch any wires. Everything's fitting nicely. So we're going to do one final test here, just to make sure it's cycling the way it should. Semi. There we go. So that's perfect. We'll note we threw on our filtered grip line here, which is really nice. Has a filter element built in. Keeps dirt out of your system. We highly recommend those. You can get those on our website or at your local retailer. There are a couple other things we want to mention here as far as the PDR that you're going to need to look out for. The first is, and this is true on any build you want to check this, but the PDR tends to be really troublesome with it in this regard, and that's the alignment. If you'll notice, I have a small screw that we put in here and adjusted the height of. In this gun, the nozzle was sitting too low for the hop up. So we were having feeding problems on this. We put a little screw in here to just raise the gearbox up a little bit. The difficulty is you have to get it just right, because if you raise it up too much, then your magazine catch won't engage. So be sure to check that, the alignment on these guns, and that's what we need to do on this one. The other thing I want to mention is the hop up. This is kind of a unique hop-up design, and I've seen on several of these, the hop-up chamber, the inside edge right in here, comes very sharp. There's like a casting edge left over that's really sharp right in there, and it can cause jams in the system. So we just took a small half-round file and cleaned that edge up, and then took some fine grit sandpaper and just smoothed the whole board there and that helped it feed a lot better. So another thing to look out for, I've seen that on several guns. I think it's just the way they made the hop up left a sharp edge there that could cause trouble. Other than that, basically just reassemble it at this point. We'll go ahead and reassemble it and then show you how we have routed the wire harness and FCU. Okay, so you can see we ran the Airline out through the back. The wiring just runs right up along here, right where the stock wiring goes, and it goes down into your grip. The FCU and battery fit pretty easily up in the grip. Everything's working correctly. Just fits right up in there, and you're pretty much set. So I hope that's been helpful. If you have any questions, just let us know in the comments below, and we'll do our best to answer them.